This is going to be a comprehensive guide to give you everything you need to know about the 5th boss fight of the Sunken Temple, Jammal'an and Ogom, and how to easily beat them. After defeating Dream Scythe and Weaver, you'll have to make your way out of the room through the hall across the way from where you came in. You'll have to fight your way through a pretty large amount of trash. Be careful here, as it's easy to overpull this trash and find yourself taking on more than you can handle. Take it slow, and it shouldn't give you too much trouble. After the trash, you'll come to a square room with an altar on the opposite side of it. This will be the arena where the 5th boss fight takes place, and you will see Jammal'an and Ogom at this altar. This fight rotates on a weekly basis, and who you fight in Phase 2 will swap between the two of them, so keep this in mind. This fight has 2 phases. The first phase has you fighting both Jammal'an and Ogom, where only one of the two will be damageable. This will indicate which weekly rotation you are on, as the one you can damage will not be present in Phase 2. You want 2 tanks for the first part of this fight, so you can tank the 2 of them separately, having the DPS stack on the boss that you can damage. The second phase happens when you kill one of the 2 of them. When you've done this, the other will absorb the dead boss, and then you must fight whichever is left. The 2 of them have vastly different skills in Phase 1 and Phase 2 that we have to watch out for. Let's start with the mechanics of Phase 1. During Phase 1, Ogom will cast Agonizing Weakness, which is an AoE curse that will reduce the attack damage of the targets and cause shadow damage over time. This can and should be decursed, focusing especially on tanks so they can have full damage output to retain threat. Jammal'an has a few more abilities in Phase 1 that we have to watch out for. He will continuously cast Holy Nova, which leaves circles on the ground that will do holy damage over time to anyone standing in them, and should be moved out of immediately. He will also cast Smite, dealing damage to one target, which can be kicked, and Holy Fire, which is a dot he will cast on 5 targets that can be dispelled to keep raid damage low. That's all for Phase 1, so now let's get into their Phase 2 abilities. Keep in mind, at this point, you will only ever be fighting one of the 2 depending on the week. So, at the end of Phase 1, either Jammal'an will cast Draining on Ogom, meaning he will be the Phase 2 boss, or Ogom will cast Eating on Jammal'an, meaning he will be the Phase 2 boss. So keep an eye out, as this fight will change a good bit depending on which of the 2 you are fighting in Phase 2. Let's start with a Phase 2 Jammal'an fight, which in my opinion is much more difficult, as he will cause a significant amount more raid damage and will have healers busy balancing heals and dispels. You will continue casting Holy Nova, just like in Phase 1, so make sure to watch your feet and keep yourself out of the circles on the ground. His abilities that are new to him in Phase 2 are 2 powerful raid-wide damaging abilities, an AoE Fear, and a self buff. The first raid damaging ability being Shadow Sermon Pain, where he will debuff 10 players, causing 600 damage every 2 seconds, which can and should be dispelled, and the second being Mass Penance, which does 500 damage every 3 seconds to every member of the raid, and cannot be interrupted or dispelled, so it must be healed through. This will eat up a lot of your healer's mana, keeping everyone alive and topped off after the cast, so watch out. His AoE Fear is Psychic Scream that lasts 6 seconds, affecting only those in melee of Jammal'an, and can be moved out of if you leave melee while he is casting. It can also be dispelled, bubbled and blinked off, or additionally, you can pop a free action potion to free yourself from the fear. He will also cast Power Word Shield, protecting himself from a majority of damage. This can be purged by shamans or dispelled by priests and should be done so immediately. Next, let's talk about Ogom's Phase 2 abilities, which are a bit easier to deal with in my opinion. He has 2 damaging abilities and 2 mechanical abilities. His 2 damaging abilities are Divine Storm, where he will pull all players towards him, dealing 750 holy damage to them, and Holy Strike, where he inflicts 100% weapon damage as holy damage, and increases the holy damage taken by 50% for 30 seconds. His 2 mechanical abilities are Consecration, where he will drop a Consecration on the ground that lasts a minute and will do 200 holy damage a second to anyone standing in it. Tanks. You want to move Ogom out of the Consecration every time he casts it, so melee can keep damage uptime on the boss. And his second ability, Hammers of Justice, where he will cast Paladin's Hammer of Justice on all raid members, stunning them for 6 seconds. This can be combated the same way we combated Jammal'an's Psychic Scream, so you can dispel it, bubble or blink it off, or use a free action potion. Whichever of the Phase 2 fights you get, you should now be set up for success. If you can keep the stuns under control, heal through the raid damage, and keep damage uptime on the boss high, you'll be 5 out of 8 in no time. I hope you found this guide helpful and have some success in Raid Night, whether you're pugging or running Sunken Temple with your guild. Don't forget to send this video to your tanks and your raid leader, so you can clear the 5th boss fight of Sunken Temple with ease. A like and a follow help out the channel a ton, and I'll be streaming more Phase 3 content over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/thatsdylan. You'll find more Sunken Temple raid guides in the linked playlist. Thanks for watching.